Thank you, everyone. That was your cue to gather. You're all perfect. You're casting my next show. I feel like I've been rehearsing for 200 years, but it's only been a few. My name's Carol Claps. I stage this with the most fabulous townspeople, producers, directors, stage managers. Al Miller is Superman in my give him a big throw. Al was in charge of the entire celebration today and beyond. This is a dramatic remembrance and reconciliation of the Tory raid on our Middlesex Parish Meeting House in July 22nd of 1781. Anybody here then? Sandy, you've been here. I know you've been here since then. Our fabulous narrator, raise your hand, Bob Fatherly. Raise your hand. He's sitting back there. Bob Fatherly goes back 4 generations at this church. He was born and baptized in this church by the minister who married his parents. He is a direct descendant of the Reverend Moses Mather through his mother and through Grace Clarendon. His great-grandfather, Reverend Charles Swan Walker, was also a minister here, and his grandfather, Claude Walker, was a deacon here for 40 years, and his mother, Harriet, was the organist for 40 years. I think he makes it the perfect person to narrate our little show. Give him a round of applause. We're about to start. And one other thing, you are all part of this presentation. So I want to hear boos. I want to hear ahs. I want to hear Tories go home. You can make it the most fabulous thing we've had in Darien in 200 years. So play along with us, enjoy. It's only 30 minutes, and we're going to get it done because the Lord is going to keep the rain away. Thank you, everybody.
When the American Revolution began, the Reverend Moses Mather, then minister of the Middlesex Parish, became an ardent supporter of the independence of the colonies. His sermons were known for patriotic zeal, and most of his flock loved him. Yet, there were members of the meeting house and others in Fairfield County who remained loyal to King George. Known as Tories, they regarded Mather with bitter hatred. On August 3rd, 1779, 5 members of the congregation, along with 3 other Tories, seized Mather and his 4 sons and carried them away to New York as prisoners. One of his sons, a 19-year-old Moses Jr., died in prison. Mather and 2 of his sons were released about a month later, but an even more severe trial was in store for them in the summer of 1781. 5 years after the Declaration of Independence, raids in Connecticut and New York had become common. One week, men from the mainland would raid Tories' farms on Long Island. The next week, Tories would be clearing out Fairfield County homesteads. Mather's rebel preaching grated on the ears of local Tories, so much so that a paramilitary group, the Associated Loyalists, headquartered at Lloyd's Neck, Long Island, with the help of local Tories, planned a raid on the Middlesex meeting house itself. On the evening of the 21st of July, 1781, a party of more than 35 men crossed Long Island Sound in ships with plenty of additional room for captive and horses. They landed on the Connecticut shore the same night and concealed themselves in the woods near the meeting house of Middlesex Parish. Their target was the Sunday morning service at the meeting house. Their goal was to capture Mather and the male patriots in their pews in order to be exchanged for loyalist prisoners. They laid in wait until 2 o'clock in the afternoon, when the good people of Middlesex were assembled devoutly preaching. When the scouts saw that the pews were full that afternoon, they gave the go-ahead for the attack on what is now the most famous day in Darien's history, July 22nd, 1781.
It is the anxious apprehension of many that at present we have more reason to fear misery and distress arising from the spirit of licentiousness and that tendency to anarchy and confusion which seems to be working in the land than we have from our open enemies. Therefore, it concerns everyone to guard against and do what in us lies to prevent such evils, but it especially concerns civil rulers, whose more immediate care it is to maintain peace and good order, to exert their authority in support of the law, which can be done only by their diligence and faithfulness in doing judgment and justice among the people, protecting, supporting, and encouraging the virtuous, and frowning upon and punishing the vicious. The virtue of patriotism at such a day, at this especially, ought to meet with all continence and respect, and on the other hand, the opposite vice of treachery calls aloud for the pursuit of vengeance. Our noble patriotic army, which under God is our chief bulwark and the support of everything dear and valuable to us, ought by no means to be neglected, but should receive all possible support and encouragement. So likewise, all such friends to the state, which act in lesser circles, ought to meet with support and encouragement. While such as are inimical to our freedom and protection expose themselves to our just indignation. Such as are inimical and treacherous have acted in very different parts in the present day. Some have acted an open part and have gone off to join the enemy.
Traitor!
While others have chosen still to continue at home among us, who have been much more hurtful to us and helpful to the enemy than those who have gone off and openly joined them. They, many of them, maintain a secret correspondence with the enemy and give them intelligence, carry on a clandestine trade with them, then lie as a dead weight, throwing every clog and hindrance in the way of all our movements and efforts for our own defense. To them, it is principally owing that our paper currency has suffered such a great and rapid depreciation, and our land so exhausted of provisions to feed the enemy as greatly to distress and discourage our own army.
Shame on that!
Every argument, therefore, which will justify us in our opposition to Great Britain strongly pleads for our most vigorous efforts to detect and make examples of such secret enemies as endeavor to conceal themselves among us. It cannot, therefore, surely be supposed that a civil officer of whatever rank, whose duty it is to execute the law, should show more leniency towards a Tory than to a friend of his country, or be by any means backward or intimidated from doing judgment and justice in that case, yea, or in any other, wherein the peace and good order of the state are interested. Nor are there any weighty, powerful motives wanting to quicken everyone to diligence in the duties of his station.
They're coming! I can see them! The Tories are coming! They're climbing the stone wall across the country road!
Surrender all in the name of His Majesty, King George III! I have good news for you.
What is the meaning of this?
Well, with you as a hostage, the Connecticut Assembly will have to listen to us. Our men must be released from that rancid, dark, dismal cavern of a prison. That slippery belt of the silver mine, copper mine. When loyalists are captured, they have a right to be treated as prisoners of war.
Tories deserve to be treated as the common criminals they are.
Shame on you, William Frost, for invading our Sabbath meeting.
Stop calling us Tories, we are loyalists!
You are God-forsaken Tories, that's what you are.
You, Sylvanus Whitney, and you, James Hoyt, you who grew up here in Middlesex, how can you do this thing?
What could we expect? These are the sons of the secret Tories who still live among us. No doubt, your relatives participated in this dreadful insurrection.
You keep our families here in Middlesex out of it. They are innocent. It's your new laws that are unjust.
Justice? What do you know about justice? It's well-known fact that your father's house on 5 Mile River is a secret meeting place for Tories!
You rebels have no right to abuse our families here. No law should allow you to take their property and goods because of us.
Run! Run! Run for the militia! Don't look back!
That boy! Yeah. Too late! He's out of range!
You Tories will live to regret this.
Stay! The whaleboat men in the French fleet will pay you a visit soon.
Those runaway cowards?
Yeah.
We brushed them aside last weekend like mosquitoes at dawn.
Nah.
They'll never destroy our fort across the sound at Lloyd's
You'll wait
Lake.
and see.
We now have His Majesty's full backing at long last. Just any day, the Loyalists will bring about the surrender of Connecticut and end your rebel treason.
You see, it isn't just a rumor. The Tories are organizing for an uprising in Connecticut.
Enough talk! Men, finish tying the prisoners and we'll be off. We must reach our boats before the tide turns.
Don't say that violence inherits the system! Help me be repressed!
Find the women and their brats. Keep them out of our way.
You mind yourself!
Fear not, dear friends. The Lord shall be our shield and defender.
The falling tear.
It is 2 months later on Sunday, September 23rd, 1781, about 11 a.m. Polly Selleck and her son Jamie enter a side door at the front of the sanctuary. They look about for a moment. Jamie fusses and pulls away from his mother's hand. Polly sets down the picnic basket that she is carrying.
Oh, Mama, what are we coming here for? You know the meeting house has been closed since the raid.
Now, Jamie, I just want a moment to look around. Have a seat and be quiet.
Can't we go? I'm hungry as a bear.
Hush, dear. How I miss the Reverend Mr. Moses Mather. It's just no real Sabbath without him.
Oh, there you are, Polly Selleck. We've been looking for you. People are gathering over Deacon Bates' house. We'll hold the prayer meeting there after lunch.
Oh, I just really dread going to the prayer meeting. Mr. Selleck and I, we're just not very welcome anymore.
Oh, but that's not true, Polly.
I think it is.
Come on, we're awful hungry.
Awful hungry.
We'll go along in a minute. Now, my dear, you must not feel guilty about what's happened, about your brother. It's not your fault. It was his choice when he decided to join the enemy over there at Lloyd's Neck Fort.
I know. It's just that after what happened with the meeting house.
What do you mean?
Well, with my husband being one of the prisoners there, and he was released the next day and returned to Middlesex Parish from Long Island. There, and the prisoners with Mr. Mather went to New York.
No, he couldn't help that.
People are saying it's because of my brother at Lloyd's Neck that he interceded for Mr. Selleck, and that's why he was released.
You must pay no heed to gossips. They are all too ready to suspect everyone of being a secret Tory. This ugly war has brought out the worst in people.
We don't wish harm on either side. We would like to remain neutral. My husband and I, we've lived here for all these years, and you don't suspect us, do you, Hannah?
What? After all the years we've been friends? Of course not.
These times are just frightening. Just on a word of gossip, we could lose our cattle and our land for all the things that the Tories have taken from Middlesex Parish.
Well, I understand your fear, but I don't believe that's going to happen.
Jamie the dirty Tory!
Dirty Tory!
I am not.
You are too! You've got relatives on Long Island that are in Middlesex all the time.
All the time!
Children!
That back, Tommy Youngs.
Stop that!
Shame on you for fighting on the Sabbath.
Polly, there is bright side to look. Now that the French are on the move, the war is sure to be over soon. Just any day now, the Reverend Mr. Mathers and the other prisoners will be coming home.
That's just more rumor. For all we know, they'll be kept until the end of the war if they don't die of starvation or smallpox first.
No. It is more than rumor this time. 2 of our men from New York came home on parole this week to arrange for prisoner exchanges. Oh, at my father's tavern, there is talk of little else. Oh, and I heard Captain Jones boasting how his whaleboat men have captured a Tory minister on Long Island. And since the Tories insist they will only exchange prisoners like for like, oh, the chances are that the Reverend Mr. Moses is sure to be exchanged soon.
Oh, I hope you're right. You must find life very exciting at Norotan Tavern.
Oh, yes. We are privy to all the news, good and bad. I said behave yourself!
It's okay now, Mama. We're militiamen fighting the Battle of Norotan.
They're hungry. We'd best be getting going. Hannah, was that raid at Norotan Tavern as bad as they said?
Oh, just dreadful. Oh, the musket fire awakened all of us, and that rascal Tommy, he dashed out of the house before I could stop him. You know, Polly, I don't think Tommy will ever forget August the 2nd.
He wasn't hurt, was he?
Oh, no, thank the Lord. He knew that he had to hide behind a stone wall. It was what he saw near the Norotan schoolhouse afterward. 2 of our brave militiamen were dead, and the wounded were scattered all about. There was a Tory nearly dead, lying in the road leading to Mr. Weed's beach.
Oh my, what an awful thing. Do you realize how many men have been captured since this all began? I pray this war will soon end.
Oh, yes, prayer. It's all that you and I can do.
Imagine the scene as Mather and his flock were marched through Long Island towns on their way to prison, mocked and lightly spat upon. They truly were the suffering servants of the Revolution. Things didn't get better in the New York jail. Poor food and water, as well as exposure to the horrors of an 18th century prison, resulted in the death of 6 members of the congregation before Mather. Thaddeus Bell and the remaining prisoners were released. In October of 1781, Cornwallis surrendered to George Washington in Yorktown, Virginia. As the war ended, many of the Tories headed for Nova Scotia or Great Britain, knowing that they'd face the wrath of their neighbors if they stayed. Hostilities continued, though for years after, in Middlesex Parish. After being freed, Reverend Mather and other captives would return home to Middlesex from the New York prison. He would return to the pulpit in December of that year and would continue his anti-British sermons.
That we may be blessed with good rulers, it is the duty of everyone to shun those land-defiling, God-provoking abominations who pull down divine judgment upon a people, and to earnestly seek God so that he may show his love toward us in placing such upon his throne among us, as shall faithfully do judgment and justice. To enforce this, I shall conclude with that apostolic injunction from 1 Timothy chapter 2, verses 1 and 2. I exhort, therefore, that first of all, intercessions, prayers, supplications, and the giving of thanks be for all men, for kings, for all who are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and honesty. Amen.